Good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining this particular session of the IBM ZPro Roundtable Maximo Spatial webinar. Once again, our monthly roundtable discussion group series. My name is Scott Schilling. I'm the ZPro Marketing and Events Director and Coordinator of these monthly roundtable discussion groups. IBM and ZPro Solutions have teamed up to take you on a monthly deep dive into a specific Maximo offering to give you a better understanding of the features and benefits of a particular offering and to enhance your organization's productivity. ZPro is a solutions provider with expertise available in every facet of your project implementation lifecycle. So please reach out directly if you'd be interested in discussing the level of effort, pricing, or any questions around today's topic of spatial. This month's roundtable, we'll be discussing spatial with our SME, Ana Paula Brambilla with IBM. Anna works with IBM Software Architecture and Development Team in Brazil, and David Jones with IBM Solutions. We'll start off today with a short presentation and a demo by Anna. After that, we'll open up for Q&A to address your specific questions around spatial enablement. So any questions that you have during our Q&A session, which will be the second half of this discussion group, please raise your hand and then we'll open up the mic during the Q&A session. You can also enter your questions in the chat window and then we'll address them there as well. This is your discussion group, so please ask questions, as I'm sure many attendees have some of the same questions, and I know we've got a tight schedule ahead, so let's get started. Anna, it is all yours.
Hello, hi Scott, thank you. Thank you for this another chance to do that. So really sorry about the technical problems we had last time. So
yeah, no worries. And Anna was gracious enough last week to join us from the countryside in Brazil on her vacation. So we had a little bit of technical difficulties in audio and video, but she's back in her office this week, still on vacation. So I got to hand it to Anna. What a trooper. So with that, thanks again, Anna. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm going to start a quick overview about Maximo Spatial. And I work for Maximo Location-Based Services team. So my background in Maximo was Maximo GIS and HSE as a developer for many years. And then last year, I migrated to a new team. So for Maximo Location-Based Services, and Maximo Spatial is one of the offerings that I work as architect. So let me start. So the topics for this presentation. So considering, every time we are going to talk about spatial, we need to consider the knowledge the users have around Arcgis and Esri tools, and also the knowledge around the EM and spatial. So for this presentation in particular, I'm considering from basic to medium knowledge for both. So I'm going to cover some of the basic concepts about GIS and Arcgis offerings, and also about spatial. So for advanced users, we usually have different speech, so the use cases are much more complex. So for today, I'm going to cover the basic concepts, an overview of the product. So a Maximo Spatial overview, how to link Maximo to Arcgis API, how to start using Maximo Spatial, so considering your use case flows, how you can start looking at this configuration. A little bit about the Arcgis offerings, so what are the offerings from Arcgis that Maximo is able to connect and to integrate. And I'm going to do a quick demo of the basic functions when we have Maximo connect to Arcgis, what are the use case flows that you can do over the map. And a little bit of the road ahead, we have the roadmap and some of the extended capabilities we have when we combine Maximo Spatial with other IBM offerings. So let's start a Maximo Spatial product overview. So first of all, what is Maximo Spatial? It's an add-on, so it requires the Maximo to be installed first, and then Maximo Spatial is installed on the top of the TPAE, that's the Maximo core. So I will let as a reference all the versions requirements you need to have in order to install Maximo Spatial. And it provides the capability to link Maximo objects like recorders, service requests, assets and locations, into GIS. And I'm going to talk many times GIS, and GIS is the acronym for Geographic Information System. And particular, Maximo Spatial connects Maximo with Esri Arcgis. That's the map provider that provides the map services and all the map features that we can interact with. In Maximo Spatial, it has embedded the Esri Arcgis technology. Technically, it means that we have Arcgis JavaScript libraries inside Maximo that allows us to interact directly with the systems. So it's not just a matter of accessing their APIs through REST, but we have embedded some of their code to do this, to improve the performance of this interaction. And it provides bidirectional integration between Maximo and Arcgis. So it means that we extend the Maximo integration framework, and we allow that all the information from Arcgis systems can be reflected and synchronized to Maximo and vice versa. So we can see also Maximo information into Arcgis systems. Work orders and service requests, once they are created on Maximo, they can be also synchronized and visualized on the top of Arcgis maps and all the applications that they have. So you can use this feature to query work order, service requests, or to change the status of GIS features according work order status, for example. And as I said first, on the embedded Arcgis technology, it allows users to interact using with the map tools. So we have a kind of a replica of the map tools from Arcgis inside Maximo. So the main features are available on Maximo user interface. So if you do not want to exchange between Maximo and Arcgis to see the map, you can stay on Maximo and you have the main tools available on the map toolbar. So what are the advantages for both systems? So considering we have a set of assets and locations as GIS objects, it means they have a position in the map, they have information of latitude, longitude, and also it has a feature associated. So it has a shape and a color, and it has a representation over the map. And this information is shared between Maximo and Arcgis. So from Maximo side, we can enhance the EAM flows, the enterprise asset management flows. So we can have all the assets and locations filled with all the information necessary for assets, all the information necessary from GIS. And also, we are able to create geospatial work orders and service requests through this Autocreate feature. And from Arcgis side, we can enhance the Arcgis visualization capabilities with this information from EAM system. And also, we can see the GIS objects from its EAM status. And also, because usually we have assets and locations as part of the Arcgis system of information. And then we have work orders and service requests on Maximo side, but we can also see work orders and service requests on Arcgis side. Okay. So moving next, a little bit of how this integration works. So once we have the ArcGIS offerings as it can be an ArcGIS online, or it can be a portal or on-premise version. And on the other side, we have the Maximo EAM running here. We can use the Maximo Map Manager to do the link between. So just a moment, please. Let me stop sharing. Just.
And I see some questions, hands raised. We'll address those again once we get to our Q&A session. So go ahead and keep your hands up, and then we'll address those. Okay, so I'm back. So just looking for a silent place here to continue the conversation. So let me share again my presentation. Okay. Can you see my screen again? Yeah, we can. Okay. Okay. So we use the Maximo Map Manager to do the link between ArcGIS and Maximo, and establish what is the relationship between the objects from one system to the other. We can access the map tools and have the ArcGIS maps available on Maximo UI. And we have this extended Maximo Integration Framework, the extension of the MIF, Maximo Integration Framework, to do the data synchronization between both systems. And considering all the applications we have on Maximo, in the out-of-the-box solutions, we deliver the map for service request, work order, assets, and locations. But it's also possible to add this map toolbar with some level of customization to other objects in Maximo. So these are the objects that we do the link with we can establish the link between Maximo, the Maximo object and the ArcGIS features. And across the other Maximo products, so we have the Maximo Spatial add-on as the foundation to establish this integration with ArcGIS and the maps. And there is a set of products that can make use of this integration, of map integration. And for this set of products, we call them Maximo location-based services. So anywhere has a map capability, so you can access the map from anywhere applications, technician for now, and service request, as far as remember, I need to confirm. We have maps available in Maximo work centers, scheduler. They do a lot of use of the maps, especially to optimize routes for the technician to execute their work when they are on the field. And some Ender solutions also have this capability to integrate with Spatial, especially Maximo for utilities, where you have the advantage to have a Spatial license available when you buy Maximo for utilities. Maximo Spatial license is also included in the product, but it's also possible to integrate or to have Maximo Spatial for other Ender solutions as well. So just a quick overview about ArcGIS offerings. It's an enterprise solutions. They have really many offerings, and it's a little bit confusing when you look first on their sites or on their documentation. But just to simplify the conversation, they have some desktop tools, so like ArcGIS Desktop and ArcGIS Pro, where you are able to create your map services, create your features and the layers. So if you need to create your roads and all the elements on the top of your roads and guardrails, or if you have water services and you need to create your pumps and hydrants and whatever we need to create on the top of the map, they provide a set of tools to draw and to publish this map services.
And the ArcGIS server, there is an on-premise version that you can install locally, and also you can use the ArcGIS online. So usually the users that are starting on the ArcGIS, they usually go through this online, and it's a little bit different the way. So you do not need to have the license, but you pay for the use you have. And then here you have a set of web maps that you can integrate and make use. And also there is the version of, you can use the portal for ArcGIS. And this is an enterprise version where several map designers or users, they can share their map services on this portal, and then it's available for all the enterprise. And Maximo Spatial connects to ArcGIS on-premise services or to the online version and also to the portal. So these are the three main integrations we can do with ArcGIS with Spatial. Just an overview of how Maximo links to ArcGIS. So considering you have the Maximo core, Maximo without a spatial add-on. So you have a map manager where you can integrate with Bing and Google Maps. And then you have a toolbar to interact with these two map providers. But usually with Bing and Google, it's just for visualization. And then for all your objects, locations, assets, recorded, and service requests, you need to connect them or to associate them to a service address. And then all of them will have a lat long to be displayed on the top of these maps. But as I said, it's for visualization, so it does not provide an integration where you can interact with the features. It's more like how to see your Maximo objects as dots or as points over the map. And with Spatial, we have the map manager. It allows us to configure spatial maps. That is basically this integration with our GIS APIs, where we are going to consume the map server and the feature services. We can make use, as in the Maximo core, of the service address to have the lat longs to be displayed on the top of ArcGIS maps. But we can also link the records. So when we have Spatial, we have this additional capability to get one location in Maximo and linking into a feature services in ArcGIS. And along the demo, I'm going to show how it can be configured. And we have also the extension of the MIF, the core MIF capability, what we call the synchronization tool, that's going to allow us to see all the attributes from GIS systems into Maximo and vice versa. So this is an architectural overview of what is Spatial add-on has in addition to Maximo core. And so many customers ask us about how to, so once we have Maximo Spatial, how to start, so how to start using this. There are many scenarios to be considered here. I'm going to consider one of them as a sample, as an example, and basically my demo flow is going through this scenario. So considering on ArcGIS server or on ArcGIS online, you have a map with a set of features and layers, and all these are set as GIS objects. So for example, you have a water services, or you have a road systems, or your piping diagram over the city. So first, we need to identify from all these GIS objects, which ones requires asset management. So maybe not all these features or layers you have on ArcGIS needs to be integrated with Maximo objects. We need to see which of them needs maintenance or has an EAM cycle to consider. And then on Maximo side, we do this link in the map manager. So link these locations with ArcGIS layers, with the assets. Identify which information from ArcGIS systems needs to be reflected over Maximo and vice versa to configure the synchronization tool over Maximo integration framework. And then we will have all our assets and locations as GIS objects in Maximo. So, and then I'm going to show you how to recognize assets and locations that are GIS objects. And once you have assets and locations as GIS objects, you can see the information from ArcGIS on Maximo. You can see, you can create new fields on Maximo to see some extra information you want from the GIS systems. And also, you have a visualization of the map on your toolbar. So you have on your assets a map tab where you can access the map and all the toolbar from ArcGIS. You can create work orders and service requests for these assets and locations. So you have the Autocreate functions that can be manual, or you can set a cron task to automatically create. So for each work orders and service request you have associated to an asset and a location that are GIS objects, you can create these work orders as a feature to be visualized on ArcGIS systems. And I'm going to show an example of this. And so you have work orders and service requests also on ArcGIS maps. So any other applications you have on the top of ArcGIS can see Maximo work orders and service requests. Any questions so far? And then I can go to the quick demo.
We do have a few questions if you want to cover those before we jump into the demo really quick.
Okay, so let me see the questions.
So we've got one, does Maximo Spatial integrate with 311 and citizen request management?
Citizen request management, I'm not aware of this tool, but I can research. I can check this information. Citizen request. I will be checking this information. So Scott, is there a way for me to get access to all these questions later so I can answer?
Oh, absolutely.
To you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll just make a list of them and I'll send them to you for any follow-up after the meeting that we need to do a little further research on.
Okay.
And there was another question, is there a specific version of ArcGIS licensing needed to integrate with Maximo?
Yeah, there are.
And do we need ArcGIS Pro?
No, we don't need ArcGIS Pro. So if you have, so you need ArcGIS Pro if you need to, or ArcGIS Desktop. Actually, ArcGIS Pro is an evolution of ArcGIS Desktop. So if you need to create your map or create new features and new layers, you need this ArcGIS Desktop tools. But from Maximo Spatial perspective, we just need the ArcGIS. So we just need to know where you have published your maps on ArcGIS server. And for Maximo Spatial, we are going to consume the map from ArcGIS server. So for Maximo Spatial, we do not have any visibility about the editing map tools like Pro or like ArcGIS Desktop. So some customers, for example, they use public samples of the maps and do not have these editing tools. Some of them are more advanced on this and have their tools to edit and to create the services and to draw. So it varies. But for Maximo Spatial, it's not required Arcgis Pro.
Okay, great, thank you. And one last one before we continue on is, can you add text to maps by using the sketch tool?
Yeah, I do not have here for my demo today the sketch tool enabled here to show an example, but it's possible to add information and see it reflected on the ArcGIS server. So it's possible.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, we can continue.
Okay, so let me, can you see my browser?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Go to, so I'm going to illustrate with this basic flow for and how to link with Maximo and Spatial, and then how to associate with an asset and create a work order. So this is the basic flow I'm going to show today. So for any other advanced and specific flow, we can have another session. So here I have configured one map manager with a spatial map and some points here to consider. So first of all, we need a base map to be configured here. So it's the world map, and there is a set of samples, public samples we can use. Or if you have ArcGIS, you can have the world map in your ArcGIS instance, or you can use some of this samples, public samples. So here I'm using a public sample. And for, I have a sample here of a water services. And for this one, I have the ArcGIS running into my computer. So I have a local instance of ArcGIS, and I'm using as a sample water utility map server. So I have configured one base map, a map services for water utility, and then for this water utility, I have configured an integration between one feature that is a hydrant from water utilities, and an asset. And here I configure what is the relationship between both. So usually we recommend that new fields are created for this integration. So on ArcGIS side, you can create all the Maximo fields you need to establish this relationship. But here, for an example, integrating the hydrant object ID with asset serial number, just to establish a unique relationship between both. And then when I do that, every time I have a hydrant over the map, I can link it into an asset on Maximo. I'm not going to cover this topic today, but for synchronization tool, if you want to have information from this hydrant from GIS system to be displayed over Maximo asset, you can configure the JSON mapping and all the synchronization tools, all the MIF stuff, all the MIF stuff. So here you can configure the information that comes from ArcGIS as inbound operations and the inbound JSON map. So you're going to say what are the attributes from ArcGIS hydrant that you want to be reflected over Maximo, and what is the name of the attribute over Maximo, the response, usually to confirm the synchronization has succeeded, and also the outbound, so the information from Maximo that needs to be reflected over ArcGIS. So I'm not going to go over this topic, but there is a set of configurations that needs to be done for enabling the synchronization. So, and here it's important to say that I'm considering for this integration that the system of record is ArcGIS. So the hydrant is first created on ArcGIS server, and then I'm going to link it into Maximo. But the owner of the recording is ArcGIS. So it's the owner of the asset in this example. And I have configured also a relationship with work orders. And in this case, the owner, the system of records, it's Maximo. So I'm going to create the records from the work order records from Maximo, and would like to have them reflected over ArcGIS. And for this one, I'm using as a sample. So we have some flags that we can establish an integration, a connection, just for a sample. But you can create your feature services to represent what are your work orders on ArcGIS. So we can have a symbology on ArcGIS for this, an icon or something like this, and then you can do this integration. For this, I'm using the flag they provided. It's provided in the sample. And then I'm going to show on the ArcGIS side later how it looks. And here again, I need to establish what is the relationship between the ID I have on ArcGIS side. So I have this field, the CID, and I'm going to integrate it with work order ID. So I have here a base map and two services and two map services configured in my map services. And then I can see here, I need to add a site here. So I can have multiple sites where I need to configure. Once I open the map, what is the initial zoom level and the initial extent of the map that's going to be displayed on my application. So here in our sample, we usually have Naperville as our city to be managed with ArcGIS and Maximo. And here we can see these triangles are part of the New York points that we layered. And I can see also the water services, so the water lines here and the hydrants from my water utility network. So here is where I configure my initial extent for each of the sites. So this is the required map manager configuration to start linking the objects on the assets and locations applications. And there is a set of other configurations, like what's going to be displayed in the tooltip when I click over a Maximo object. Some services that we can use. So usually the geometry services, we use them for doing some conversions between different spatial references. So if you have service address that are in lat long, and then you have all your linked records in X, Y, or other spatial reference, we need the geometry services to do this conversion between one system of reference to the others. I have configured one advanced on the advanced settings here, the Autocreate. So for this work order flag, I can use the Autocreate to have this work order to be created on ArcGIS side. There is a set of configurations for linear that I'm not going to cover today. And also the map symbology. There is a JSON file here. Usually this is for the map admin, for the GIS admin, to configure how the icon for assets, location, service request, what is the shape and the color of the icons. So let me go back here. So this is the configuration for Map Manager. I can have just one enabled for each site. So we cannot have a conflict between two base maps. And then I'm going to the assets applications to show. Let me go here. To assets. here I'm going to create a GIS asset for ZPro demo, just to show you. And then when I open the map tab, I can see here the toolbar. So, so I need to, this is my development environment, and some of the toolbar icons are not being displayed here, but it's do my development environment, so it does not happen on your production, on the production. And I'm going to show, so first of all, so we have an asset and we need to link it into a GIS feature. So here I can see my map services, and all these symbols, these red symbols, are the hydrants I have over Naperville. So with this tool, identify tool, I can define a tolerance, so it increases the area you can identify over the map. And once I click over any of these hydrants, this one, for example, I can see all the information from ArcGIS, all the hydrant information. And I have this option here to link this hydrant into my asset. I'll confirm here. So now I have this asset linked into this ArcGIS, this hydrant on ArcGIS system. Okay, so just to show what happens here on the main page. So in the map manager, I have configured this relationship between assets and hydrants, and we give it the name of feature class. And once I do the link, I can see the feature class is updated as I have configured on the map manager. And I can see also the serial number. It's updated with the object ID, as far as I remember. That's how I have configured. So the object ID of the hydrant updates the serial number here. So now we have the relationship established between this particular asset and a particular hydrant. We are able to use the layers tool here. I have enabled just the water hydrants to make it faster for demo. So here you can see you can enable and disable each of these. So let me show you. I think the water mains. Okay, here it is. So for each of the layers for this water services, you can enable or disable the visualization on the top of the map. Okay.
Anna, we got a couple more minutes, then we want to dive into our Q&A session if you want to wrap this up.
Okay. Okay, so let me just stop here and then go to the questions, to the roundtable. Okay. Yeah, and besides the layers tools, we have also the selection that allows you to visualize the results of a query over the map. You can query what are the assets inside an area. And the other topic was around the recorder creation. But we can switch to the questions. Okay.
Great. Thank you, Anna. And I will open up for the Q&A session. I know David Jones with ZPro Solutions has been answering a lot of the questions that are coming in the chat window as well. So I'll open up Dave's mic as well to field some questions that we have out there, or to be able to respond to any of these chat window questions as well. And folks, if you want to raise your hand, we'll just open your mic up and you can ask the question again, or you can just drop it in the chat window as well. All right. And Dave, you have been responding to some of these. So actually, Dave, I'll let you ask the questions because you know which ones you've already responded to, if that works for you. Can you unmute, Dave?
Sorry, I thought you'd remove my muzzle.
You're all good.
Yeah. No. Let me just go through them with Anna here.
Sure.
And I'll take the last one. There's a good one. Can we plot the maintenance routes on maps on the Maximo map tab for if we have work orders and they're running maintenance running or we've routed them? Can you see what those routes are on the map?
Yeah, actually, for the routes, we usually have a scheduler. The scheduler has all the route services. So we can have the route services added as part of the map manager configuration. And then, for example, scheduler has also the optimization services that allows to use to optimize the routes between one work order in the map to the next one. According a set of criteria they have. So we have, Maximo Spatial has this capability to add the route services, but usually the use cases are on the scheduler side. So, and there is an interface with scheduler for the routes. So that's one key point that we have with scheduler.
Okay. Yeah. So we need scheduler, Maximo scheduler to really do that well with the maps. I think what I hear
exactly.
You saying. Okay. Next one. If the GIS map service has an attachment, can you make it available in the pop-up on the map tab in Maximo? Can you read it?
Not in the out of the box. We don't have this access to the images on the Maximo side, so not now. But there are plans to do that for the work centers to access this. Their imagine images database, but for the current version and the classic one, we do not have this capability.
Right, which I think points out a kind of an important part is how you manage what data is where, right? Between GIS server is holding data, Maximo's holding data, who's your user, where are you going to access it from? Because if you actually put some of those maps or some of the attachments in Maximo, then you'd have access to them.
Yeah. So it requires some level of configuration there to link the databases, Maximo attachments database with Arcgis images database, but it's not something provided out of the box. But it's possible to do on linking the two database through some implementation.
Right. Okay. Next one. If you have an advanced version of ArcGIS Pro, does it add different capabilities to your map manager?
No, because if you have an advanced capabilities, you can enhance the maps. You can publish on your ArcGIS server, but not because Spatial consumes the maps from the ArcGIS server and not from the Pro. But you also on the entire flow for editing the map, publishing, and then consuming in Maximo, you have again, but not we do not connect with ArcGIS Pro.
Gotcha. Okay. And then can work orders be spatially enabled to assets rather than addresses on the work order if they have different GIS points? In other words, spatially enable it to the asset itself rather than an address on a work order.
So let me see if I get this question. So if you have an asset that is a GIS, and then you create a work order for this asset, so it's going to inherit the location from the asset into the work order. So your work order is going to have a GIS point from the asset it belongs to. So not sure if
Yes,
it answers the question.
Especially like I'm working on California's high-speed rail, and you have rail out in the middle of nowhere at the pumping station. You don't have an address, but you do have a geographical location in GIS. So yes, you can create that work order to that particular asset location and see it on the map as that location versus a street address.
It would be the next step for the demo here. So create so once the asset is created, we can create a work order, and then we have the auto-locate capability to say that this work order is positioned on the asset that it has that has created the work order. So we can have this capability.
Right. All right. So expansion. I think if you have both an address and asset points, can you? Well, I guess you. And what would you do if you had both a street address, let's say, and a different physical asset location in that vicinity? What would you reference, or can you reference both?
Yeah, there is a hierarchy to follow in the auto-locate. So I can't remember exactly, but first is the link. So if you have a link between the asset and ArcGIS, so you're going to use the linked position. And then service address, I think, comes second in this hierarchy. So I can provide, so that's another thing I can provide. There is a tech note explaining what is the hierarchy to find the location of the work order if you have multiple information.
Okay. I think Scott had one here that can you use tools on the map toolbar to find and identify features and places on the map?
Yeah, the identify tool can be used to do that.
Right. And I think that's an interesting, in your demo, one of the things we run into is in our configuration and setup and integration, we actually disabled some of the tools. We didn't want users breaking links, linking things that weren't there, because we wanted to manage how the data is displayed. So the toolbars are great, but sometimes you've got to look at that to make sure that you want users to have access and not make changes.
Yeah, and it's totally configurable. All the toolbar, I did not show, but in the map manager, you can configure, have a set of different SIG options for each of the toolbars features. And some of them, like edit tools, that you are allowed to edit small things on the features to send to ArcGIS. It's usually just for admin users, so it's totally configurable.
Right, and just for Ed, you mentioned about the address and asset points. Another way to do is to put a attribute in Maximo with the address, so that somebody in the field could look at what the access address is to get to the asset point. So a lot of ways to skin that. Can you locate a record by identifying it on a map that displays features and then setting it as the current record? Example, if you want to open a work order for an asset, but you cannot find the asset record, you can locate the feature on the map and then set it as a current record.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see. Can you create a GIS object from Maximo using the Maximo Spatial?
Yeah. So the work order is an example for this. So you can create a work order, and then with Autocreate function, you create the GIS on the GIS side. So you are creating a GIS object on Maximo to be displayed on ArcGIS.
Okay, and then there's a continuation of that. Does Maximo Spatial still require direct access to the default SDE geo database, or can it now reference a replica?
I'm not sure about this one. Because in the past it used to be a link between databases. So we have a link DB between Maximo and Geospatial database. And now with map services, it's all through the API that we do this integration. But this one I can confirm later about this. But it goes usually to the default database, so that's true. And there is a discussion about branch versioning in ArcGIS. So now ArcGIS allows users to have different branches, but for spatial, we always integrates with the default database and not to the branch. So the branch needs to go to the default, to be published in the default database so we can consume from Maximo side.
All right. Can you use the Map Work Center to access Maximo Asset Management records linked to ArcGIS features directly from the map without opening multiple applications?
Yeah, but the Map Work Center as it is now, it's for visualization. So you need to do all the links on the map, on the applications from Maximo, from the classic Maximo, and then you can visualize them on the Map Work Centers. But for the next generation of work centers and for the new Maximo mobile platform, we are going to enhance this and for each version to add a new capability to see them all in the same UI and not by applications as it is.
All right, and thanks, James. He liked your presentation and information. So.
Thank you all. And then, yeah, I can, so for specific questions that I cannot address today, I can research and answer and send to Scott later, so he can distribute among you. So I just take one note here of one question about the one of the applications that I'm not aware of this, but I will research and answer later.
And I guess the one thing I'd like to just mention overall is that really the effort needs to be put into the planning as to who are the users going to be used, how are they going to use it, which system do they access for that, and who owns and shares what data. Because there's a lot of redundancy and duplication in a lot of these systems that are put up. And you really want one in charge of the data so that you always have the correct data and access to all the parties. Many times people who have a lot of familiarity with GIS will put in everything going GIS as the main weight and how the implementation is done, and that's not always the best way to do it. And the same could be said for Maximo, that if you know Maximo, then GIS might be just a side application and you don't get the full use of it. So I think you really need to look at having somebody who understands the whole picture. Strategically, what are you trying to do? Is it reliability? What are some of your drivers? And then see how you best combine those technologies to get the best result. And then what data do you need and how should that data flow and who should see it? So if you get that right, then the technology and the setting that up is much easier.
Exactly, and the use cases are really diverse. So for each customers, and it's quite hard to talk to a large audience because the stages the customers are with GIS and spatial are really different. So this is intended to be a basic flow, but we usually have a specific speech for each kind of industry and customer flows. So
exactly.
Great. Well, we're winding down the last couple minutes we have before we wrap up the session. Any final questions? I do see one that Connie Marr, SFUC, put out that about the slide deck for the version of Maximo ArcGIS required used in today's demo. So we will have that information available. I'll reach out to you folks and let you know where you can find that information. Any last minute questions that we have out there? feel free to drop them in the chat window again. And if we don't get to those, we will address those on a follow-up communication with you folks as well. So in closing, oh, go ahead, Anna. Sorry.
I just posted in the chat the matrix compatibility, the compatibility matrix for Maximo, Arcgis, and all the versions available. So this is a link for IBM support.
Great, great. So in closing, I'd like to thank Anna Paula with IBM and David Jones with ZPro Solutions for supporting this month's roundtable discussion group. As I mentioned earlier, please drop me a note on what topics that you'd be interested in discussing at one of our future monthly IBM ZPro roundtable discussion group meetings. Next month, we're in the planning for health, safety, environmental, more commonly known as HSE. In addition, as mentioned earlier, if you'd be interested in discussing level of effort and or pricing for today's topic, please drop me a note. We'd love to chat with you folks anytime. This webinar recording will be available upon request, so reach out to me if you'd like to have a copy of it. And that's it. Thanks, Anna, again for coming off of your vacation to for the second time to run this roundtable discussion group. And you did a fantastic job. Thank you, both you and David, for hosting and answering all of our important questions around Maximo Spatial. With that, thank you all for attending, and everyone have a great day.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you all. Bye-bye.